Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a city ruled by fear? What does it feel like when danger is around every corner and nobody is truly safe? In the 1980s, Medellin, Colombia, was one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Car bombs exploded in busy streets. Police officers were hunted. Ordinary people went to sleep every night unsure if they would see the next day. Behind all the chaos were the Sicarios, the Cartel Hitmen. Most were young, even teenagers, trained to kill and fiercely loyal to one man, Pablo Escobar. In this video, we'll dive into their world. How did they operate? What made them so feared? And what ultimately happened to them? If you want to uncover the truth behind Colombia's violent past, hit the like button and subscribe to the Narco Files for more real stories from the world of cartels. A war zone called Medellin. Imagine walking through Medellin in the 1980s, and this was not a normal city. It was filled with fear and danger. Car bombs exploded in crowded streets. Assassinations happened in broad daylight. Police officers were hunted, and ordinary people could be caught in the crossfire. Cars burned with bodies inside. Violence wasn't occasional here. It was everywhere. The city had become one of the most dangerous in the world. Drug cartels were at war not just with each other, but with the Colombian state itself. Everyday life was a struggle just to survive. At the center of this chaos were the Sicarios, the cartel hitmen. Many were young men, even teenagers trained to kill at any order. Their actions shaped one of the most brutal and violent periods in Colombia's history, leaving a lasting impact on the city and its people. Who were the Sicarios? These weren't ordinary criminals or street gang members. The word Sicario means hitman, someone hired to kill. But in Medellin, their role went far beyond that. Many came from poor neighborhoods where poverty and few opportunities left young people with very limited choices. Some were teenagers when they first picked up guns. They were offered money, power, respect, and a way out of hardship. And for many, it seemed like the only option. Loyalty was everything. They believed they were part of something bigger than themselves, a force that could decide life and death. Trusted by Pablo Escobar himself, these hitmen carried out his deadliest orders without question, shaping one of the most violent periods in Colombia's history. The most infamous hitmen. John Jairo Velázquez, Popeye. One of the most infamous sicarios was John Jairo Velázquez, known as Popeye. He became Pablo Escobar's top lieutenant and was trusted with the cartel's deadliest missions. Popeye claimed he personally killed over 250 people and helped plan thousands more. From political assassinations to violent ambushes, he carried out Escobar's orders without hesitation. His actions made him a symbol of the cartel's brutality and one of the most feared figures in Medellin during the 1980s. John Jairo Arias Tascon, Pinina. Another notorious sicario was Pinina. He began his criminal life at a young age and rose to become one of Escobar's most violent commanders. Pinina was involved in political assassinations, bombings, and the killing of police officers. He led groups of hitmen, carrying out the cartel's deadliest orders, and became feared across Colombia for his ruthlessness and loyalty to Escobar's violent missions. Dandeni Muñoz Mosquera, La Quica. La Quica was one of Pablo Escobar's most feared hitmen. He took part in mass murder campaigns and was linked to the 1989 Avianca Flight 203 bombing, which tragically killed over 100 people. Eventually, La Quica was captured and extradited to the United States, where he was sentenced to multiple life terms for terrorism and murder, marking the fall of one of Medellin's most ruthless killers. Others in the network, beyond Popeye, Pinina, and La Quica, there were dozens of other young hitmen, often known only by nicknames. Each played a role in a network that spread fear across Colombian cities and towns. Some were brutally loyal, others ambitious or hardened by tragedy. Together, they created an era where violence ruled and the sound of guns spoke louder than any words or warnings. How the Sicario network worked. The Medellin cartel's system of hitmen was like a well-oiled machine. Cold, efficient, and deadly. It relied on many moving parts. Street informants spotted targets and shared information. Motorcycle squads could strike quickly and vanish into traffic. Bomb specialists created explosives that terrorized entire neighborhoods. Security teams protected leaders and carried out orders. Many missions came directly from Pablo Escobar, including political and national hits. Once someone became a sicario, loyalty was everything. They received weapons, money, and status, but only as long as they followed orders. Most came from neighborhoods where violence was already part of daily life, making it easier for the cartel to recruit them. Inside this system, hitmen were both powerful and disposable. Powerful while obeying orders, but easily discarded if they became a problem. It was a network built on fear, loyalty, and ruthless efficiency. How they operated. The Sicarios made Medellin feel like a constant war zone. Their methods were brutal and terrifying. Motorcycle hit squads were common. One rider drove while another fired at targets with guns. Car bombs exploded in crowded areas, creating fear and chaos. They carried out targeted assassinations against judges, police officers, politicians, and journalists. Anyone seen as a threat to the cartel. Some attacks were high-profile, like bombing airplanes or public buildings, meant to send a message to the government and the public. These actions were never random. They were carefully planned to intimidate citizens, weaken authorities, and protect the cartel's power. The streets rang with gunfire, explosions, and the cries of innocent people caught in the middle. For ordinary Colombians, there was no safe place. Fear was constant, and life could change in a single moment. The Sicarios' violence controlled the city. The psychology of a hitman. The violence of Medellin's Sicarios wasn't just about money, it was about a mindset. Many of these young men believed they were untouchable, part of a family that protected them and gave their lives purpose. Killing wasn't just a task, it was a test of loyalty. Turning back wasn't an option. Leave, and you could be killed. In their neighborhoods, being a Sicario brought a mix of fame and fear. Some young men experienced respect and power for the first time, feeling important in ways they never had before. But behind the bravado was constant fear. Fear of betrayal, fear of death, and anxiety that the next order could be their last. This mindset helped cartels maintain control, keeping the hitmen loyal, efficient, and willing to carry out acts that terrified entire cities. Their role in Escobar's war against Colombia. Pablo Escobar wasn't just running a drug empire, he was at war with the Colombian state. His Sicarios became his personal army, carrying out his orders with brutal efficiency. They fought against the government, which was trying to capture or extradite Escobar. They targeted the police, who were constantly closing in on cartel operations. The hitmen also acted against the United States, which supported Colombia's anti-drug campaigns, and against rival cartels competing for territory and smuggling routes. Their actions went far beyond killing enemies. Sicarios disrupted entire institutions, spread fear through communities, and weakened public safety nationwide. They protected cartel leaders while ensuring Escobar's orders were enforced without question. In many ways, these young men became both the shield and the sword of the cartel, making Colombia a global symbol of the violence and chaos caused by the drug trade. Turning points in the war. Even at the height of violence in the 1980s, the Medellin cartel's power was not unshakable. Key events began to weaken their control and change the game for the Sicarios. One major moment was Pablo Escobar's surrender to Colombian authorities and his stay in the self-built prison, La Catedral, an event that showed even he could be pressured. Later, Escobar escaped, proving the limits of law enforcement but also increasing pressure on the cartel. At the same time, the Colombian Search Bloc, a specialized police unit backed by U.S. support, became more effective in tracking cartel members. Outside forces like Los Pepes, a vigilante group made up of rival cartel members and enemies, began targeting Escobar's associates. These changes forced Sicarios to make life-or-death choices: fight, flee, or surrender. Fear, which once protected them, started to fade, and the network began to crumble. The downfall of the Sicarios. As the 1980s turned into the early 1990s, the cartel's most feared hitmen began to fall one by one. John Jairo Velázquez, better known as Popeye, surrendered to authorities in 1992 and faced decades behind bars. Quica, another of Escobar's top assassins, was captured in New York in 1991 and is serving life sentences in the United States. Pinina, feared for orchestrating bombings and assassinations, was killed by police in 1990, ending the life of one of the cartel's deadliest commanders. Other lieutenants met similar fates. Some died in shootouts, others were arrested, and a few scattered as the cartel's power crumbled under constant pressure from law enforcement and rival groups. By the early 1990s, the reign of Medellin's top killers was over. Streets that once trembled under the sound of gunfire and explosions slowly began to find peace, and the city started to breathe again. The aftermath in Medellin. After the cartel's power weakened, Medellin began to change. The constant fear and violence eased, but the scars remained. Families had been destroyed, innocent people lost their lives, and communities lived in terror for years. Some surviving Sicarios wrote books, gave interviews, or tried to start new lives, but the past still haunted them. Today, the city works hard to rebuild, focusing on education, innovation, and peace. Yet, the memory of those violent years continues to linger in the streets and hearts of its people. What this era teaches us. The story of Medellin's hitmen is more than a tale of crime and violence. Have you ever wondered how poverty and lack of opportunity can shape a person's life? How can young people be pushed toward choices they might never have imagined? These Sicarios didn't become killers because they were naturally cruel. Many were just looking for a way out of hopelessness, and the cartels offered them a path, even if that path meant violence. Their story is a reminder of what happens when society fails its youth, but it also teaches us something else. Even in the darkest times, there are lessons about resilience, justice, and rebuilding what violence has destroyed. If this story made you think about the value of choices and opportunity, hit the like button and subscribe to The Narco Files for more real stories from the world of cartels and crime.